So I thought I'd record this video. Make sure you do that my open math assignment with finding outliers two ways. And this is kind of like just an overview. One thing that I probably mention it in my videos. I know the textbook really didn't mention this, is how do I know which outlier test to use? I mean, should I be working with the means and standard deviations or that 1.5 IQR test? So this is my data from that spreadsheet I created, and these are some combined SAT scores that I made up. And so it's both the math and verbal together. And so I wanted to, of course, at this point I'm hoping you realize, oh yeah, well, let's get a picture of this distribution. So I didn't want to do that by hand. So what I did was I used software. I used that Rossman Chance applet, and I'll make sure you see that link. And it did a dot plot for all those scores, and it also made a box plot for me very nicely. It also calculated the mean, the median, the standard deviation, and upper quartile, lower quartile, and then the IQR. I don't know if you can see this on the video. But what I did is I wrote those down here, kind of tried to make it so you could read it. So I got to decide what shape do I see. Well, I see a tail off to the left here, and I see 50% of the data is less than that median, and that's really stretched out compared to the left, compared to the upper half. And then when I look at this dot plot, I see, those are well away from the rest of the data. And if I think about it as a histogram, or I could say this might be left skewed. And then when I compare the mean and the median, I see the mean is less than the median. So yeah, I think there's some support here. This is a left skewed distribution. So then my question comes up: are these three scores way down here, where the people together only got 800? Remember, I guess they'll get a 400 lowest, so because it's 200 and 200. So I guess I won't say that. But are those outliers? Are those some numbers we can disregard when we're trying to talk about averages and that kind of thing? So you need some way to come up with this. You need to make a decision. And in the textbook, they talk about the 1.5 IQR test. And so I calculated these values. I took the median, so to get the lower fence on my outlier test, I took the lower quartile minus 1.5 IQRs. That came out to be 710. And to find the upper fence, I did the upper quartile plus 1.5 IQRs, and that was 1670. So if I go back and look at my data list, where's my data list? My lowest number is 800. And the lower fence said, let's see, can you see this? The lower fence said 710, so there's no lower outliers. And the upper fence was 1670, and my highest score is 1420, so there's no upper outliers. So for this skewed distribution, and we know skewed distributions vary quite a bit, so using that 1.5 IQR test, there are not any outliers. I shouldn't disregard that. I shouldn't disregard this. I should include those. What if you decided to go with the mean and the plus or minus 2 standard deviations to figure out if these are outliers? Well, I did that here, and so when you do the outlier test for means and standard deviations, you do the mean minus the 2 standard deviations, and you do the mean, that'll get you the lower fence. Then you do the mean plus 2 standard deviations, that'll give you the upper fence. So according to this test, anything less than, sorry, I got a low battery alert. Anything less than 840 is an outlier, so that would mean these two values down here were outliers. So using that test, I would discard those bottom two, and the upper outlier would be anything above 1504, and of course we don't have anything that big. So if I use the mean and the standard deviation test, I'm going to throw out a couple of these data points out as outliers. So which is the right decision? Should I be using this when it says there's no outliers, or should I be using this when it says there's 2 outliers? Well, we decided this was a left skewed distribution. when we have a skewed distribution, we want to use the mean and, the median and the IQR, the median and the 5-number summary, to describe the center and spread. So the appropriate test to use would be this one, because we're going to use the median and the IQR to talk about center and spread. Whereas if we try